We're continuing on Shulchan Aruch Siman Shinvav in Chot Shabbat, and we're up to Seif Chet, the discussion of what is mutar to think about on Shabbat. So we spoke about what you can and cannot say, the Sorche Mitzvah, that you could speak about, certain mundane activities that you can't speak about, and now about our thoughts. Hirhur ba'asakav mutar, you can think about your mundane business, so to speak. You could. Umikol makom, says the Shulchan Aruch, however, mishum oneg Shabbat mitzvah shelo yachshov bahem klal. Because of oneg Shabbat, the absolute ta'anug, when a person has strings attached to their mind, even though that's not necessarily stressful, but in the background of your mind, you're thinking about, I have to buy this, I have to pay that, I have to do this, I have to make that deal, how about speaking to this person as a rep, and so on and so forth. The business thoughts are strings attached to our mind. Consciously or subconsciously, they're going to take away from the focus on life itself, on Oneg Shabbat. The real ta'anug of Shabbat is Melachtecha asuya. Your job is done. You have nothing else to do. You could just enjoy Shabbat. You could just connect with Shabbat. Again, these now programs, the hotels charge you an arm and a leg to take you to a farm, to a mountaintop, that they actually take away your phone from you, and any communication method of emails and nothing. You have nothing. And some of them don't even have electricity and so on. For you to be able to disconnect, to be able to reconnect with yourself, right? So now we have that built in. We don't even charge you. So you have to just pay for gefilte fish and kugel and kishka, if you're Ashkenazi, that's a chamin, right? You have to just do that, but nevertheless, we really don't have anything to do. That's the ultimate Shabbat experience, is when your thoughts are completely disconnected. You're not thinking of anything. So it's not a matter of chilul Shabbat, it's a matter of experiencing Shabbat in its fullest capacity when you're not thinking about anything. So to train one's mind that I'm not going to think about business. Once you give into it, then you find yourself wandering into the abyss for half an hour, 1 hour, and you just stressed yourself out for things that are not Shabbosdik, not really something you should be thinking about during Shabbat. So therefore, says the Shulchan Aruch, mikol makom, mishum oneg Shabbat, mitzvah shelo yachshov bahem klal. The mitzvah is you should not be thinking about them at all. Now, there are, Kabbalistically speaking, hachanot that a person does for Shabbat with maaseh, with action, with dibur, with speech, and with thought. Just the thought of Kedusha does something to a person. The Rambam writes, why is it that Hihura Avera Kashin Ma'avra? The Gemara says, thought of Avera is greater Avera than the Avera itself. And Rambam writes because that hits on the core of your neshama. The thought process is the highest level of Kedusha that the person has in the neshama, in their brain, and damaging that is damaging the core of the human being. When a thought process is rotten, then it basically rots away the core of humanity, and borrowing that aspect from the Rambam, applying it over here, the thoughts of Kedusha, the thought of preparation for Shabbat, is something that actually gives you the full experience of Shabbat as well. Now, if a person enjoys from the thought, right, he's thinking of how much money he's going to spend on the chuppah of his son, right? The thought itself is enjoyable, planning it, thinking about it, that Rabbi Yitzchak Palaji, the son of Rabbi Chaim Palaji, in Yafel Alev, he writes that's mutar. And this is, again, this whole din comes from Rabbeinu Yonah. The Tur brings this in the name of Rabbeinu Yonah over here, if you take a look. And Rabbi Yitzchak Palaji writes that even Rabbeinu Yonah would agree that in this case it would be actually mutar. Now the Gemara says in Masechet Shabbat, Daf Kuf Nun Amud Bet. The Gemara it's a famous Gemara. Maaseh b'chasid echad shenifresa lo pirza betoch sadehu. There was a chassid, a pious individual, who noticed that there was a hole that was created in the fence of his field. And he made a decision. Nimlach alea legodra. He said, oh, I have to fix this. And he started thinking of how to fix it and how to renew the wall and so on. Shabbat. And then he caught himself. So today's Shabbat, how am I doing this? How am I thinking of a mundane activity on Shabbat? What a failure. And in order to atone, so to speak, for this failure of thinking about his melacha on Shabbat, he decided, I'm not going to fix it. I'm going to just let it be. Now, if you let a hole of that nature be in your field, you're finished. Foxes and animals and thieves, you can imagine. He didn't fix it. Now, Salo Nes was a miracle that happened. A beautiful and solid plantation grew there and blocked the hole. Not only it blocked the hole, but it became a tremendous source of parnasa for him, that tree that grew there. This is what the Gemara says. Midrash Rabbah adds in the end of Parashat Behar that it says on it, Sha'amar al shechashavti alea b'Shabbat eni godra leolam. He explains this maaseh that's brought in the Gemara. He says, because I thought about it on Shabbat, I am not going to fix it forever. And that commitment to Shabbat, to onek Shabbat, na'asa lo nes ve'ala sham ilan, that he tremendous tree that caused a tremendous parnasa for him, grew over there, and so on. Now, Ari HaKadosh writes, and this Chacham Ovadia brings this in the last sefer that he wrote before he was niftar. He was in the middle of writing Chazon Badian Shabbat Chelek Vav, right? And actually, Siman Shin Vav, I think, was really the last Siman that he wrote about. This is in the middle of this sugya that he passed away. So he brings in the name of Ari HaKadosh that this chassid that the Gemara talks about was Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai. Whenever the Gemara says Maaseh b'chasid echad, is one of few people, and one of them is Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai. So Ari HaKadosh says that this was Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai, and when he did this, nitnoses bo, this is a Kabbalistic Shara Gilgulim stuff, right? That nitnoses bo, the neshama of Slofchat HaTzadik was, a nitzos of that neshama came upon him, that he was nerak, Slofchat was killed because it was mekoshesh etzim b'yom HaShabbat, because he desecrated Shabbat with the field items, the agricultural things, and here he was the takana of that he not only didn't do it, but even didn't think about it, and because he thought about it, he went ahead with mesirut nefesh like this. When it kadasha Shabbat al yado, va'ata tiken oto chasid, this chasid was metaken the avera of Slofchat with the chasidut that he did. And this is what Chazal say, she'ala lo slaf chad, one tree of slaf. If you read slaf chad, one slaf is Slofchat. It's the neshama of Slofchat. It's a beautiful kaftor vaferach, beautiful Ari HaKadosh that's brought in the poskim. But nevertheless, this is a midat chasid. This is a level of piety that you're not expected to do, but you are kind of expected to do. Midat chasidut, for a person not to even think about what they're going to be doing on Yemot HaChol. The thoughts should not be on your mind on Shabbat. V'yeheh be'enav, and this is the key sentence. Yeheh be'enav ki'ilu kol melachto asuya. You should imagine on Shabbat that everything is done. Right? Your fundraising is done. Your business is good. Everything is amazing, right? Your mother-in-law is in peace with you. The whole thing is amazing, right? There's nothing left to do. You just connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, daven like there's no tomorrow. Learn like there's no tomorrow. Connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with your family, and enjoy your children, and connect with them, and transmit values of Torah to them like there's no tomorrow. Today is what you have got. And that is one of the hard but most essential elements of Shabbat, which is not even halakha. It's really, well, it's made it in the Shulchan Aruch, it's midat chasidut, but it's something that we expected to do. Says the Mishnah Berurah, mitzvah shelo yachshov umikol shken im yesh lo al yedei yirhur tirdat halev. Especially if you know that when you start thinking about this topic, it's going to stress you out. If you know it's going to give you anxiety and de'aga, then you have to definitely be careful from thinking of things that bring you to that level of emotional distress. Now, Maram Bet Yosef writes a language that you could actually make a diuk in, and Reb Chaim Patrumoli in Petach Hadvir, who's a Abedin of Turkey, of Izmir, he writes to make this diuk in the word of Maran, that the only hirhur that Chazal were matir is when it does not stress you out. When something brings you to distress, that is not mutar, that is actually asur. It's not just midat chasidut, but it's something that you have to halachically stay away from, and he's medayek this in the language of Maran Bet Yosef. Now, ve'eh be'enav, when the Shulchan Aruch says that you have to imagine that everything is done and set and you're ready to go, this the Mishnah Berurah brings from the Mechilta in Parashat Yitro, Sheshet Yamim Ta'avot ve'asita kol melachtecha, 6 days you shall work and do all of your works. Ve'asita kol melachtecha. Why does it say asita kol melachtecha? Do all of your work. The Midrash in Mechilta says, "V'chi efshar la'adam la'asot kol melachto b'sheshet yamim." Is it possible that a person should do all of his works, process, and all of his life's work in 6 days? Of course not. So why does it say "V'asita kol melachtecha sheshet yamim"? Says the Midrash, "Ela shevot ke'ilu kol melachtecha asuya." You should make Shabbat. You should stop the work as if there is no more work to do. This was the last day you worked. You have an early retirement, you're doing nothing. You have nothing to do. That's how a person should enter Shabbat. That's how a person should celebrate Shabbat and experience Shabbat, which is something so powerful and so beautiful, Be'ezrat Hashem, for all of us to have the zchut of a real Shabbat ki'ilchata, a Shabbat ki'tikna. There's a Yerushalmi and a Bavli conflict, so to speak, that Chazal say, if you would do 2 Shabbats ki'ilchata, you keep, Klal Yisrael would keep 2 Shabbats ki'ilchato, like it's halacha, right away there would be nigal. Yishalmi says, Shabbat achat ketikna. You would give 1 Shabbat ketikuna, there would be nigal. So which one is it? 2 or 1? There are different answers given, but one beautiful, powerful answer is, well, it depends if it's ki'ilchata or ketikna. If you only keep the halachot of Shabbat, then you need 2 Shabbats. But if you do Shabbat as it should be, that you do all the things that are not necessarily, bare-born halacha, but you do more. Like this. Miyat Chasidut, you shovet with onek Shabbat, enjoying it like there's no tomorrow. That Shabbat is so powerful that even 1 Shabbat like that has it in its power to bring the Geula Ha'atidah Be'ezrat Hashem for all of us. Amen.